What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I'm going to break down the charts for Tesla and talk about the news, what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with this market. So, as far as Tesla's going, we're actually making lower highs right here, which is not looking too great. I want to see it break past 250 to really start pushing. If we can't do that, it's not going to be a good sign. If we end up losing 233 to 230, we're going to be dumping even more. So it's not a very, very good sign so far that we're making these lower highs. But the question is, why is Tesla underperforming compared to the market, right? Because Tesla was trying to balance last week alongside the market. So I wanted to see confirmation, which would have been a break above 250 to continue this push. And so far, we got a dip instead with some bad news that came out. So I think it's very important for me to talk about the news, and I'll break down what's happening with these charts. For now, Tesla's weak compared to the market. The first bad piece of news came out involving the Cybertruck. So we are seeing some news coming out that some of the trims on the side are flying off right now, at least for the Cybertruck, and they're going to be pausing deliveries for the time being. Not the best of news, at least so far. With these trims happening, this is on the roof's ledge of the vehicle, on the side just above the windshield. That is what's starting to come off. There's actually like a picture right here, so you guys can see there's like a part of this coming off. Not the best of news for them, right? And we're seeing a lot of complaints about that. This is not too great. You guys can see right here, the trim is also coming off right here. So you guys see this is starting to come off for a lot of people. Not the best of news as well. This has led to a recall once in 2024. And we're going to see if they have to continue to do these recalls, how this is going to go. But because they're pausing deliveries, this is some negative news. Then we got Mizuho lowering their price target. They have a lowered price target. It's about $430. They used to say Tesla's going to run to $515 a share, and they're saying $430. Why is this? Why are they lowering their price target? It's because they're saying that the February sales are declining in the US, European Union, and China. They're down 2% year over year in the US. They're down 49% in China. And for Germany, they're down about 76%. They also mentioned there's a lot of brand deterioration because of geopolitics and brand perception, and there's stronger competition. They also think there's softer than demand expectations, at least for the Model Y refresh. So not the best of news. And they're also saying that they are trimming their overall delivery estimates to about 2.3, or it used to be at 2.3 to 2.9 million. Now it's going down to about 1.8 to 2.3 million. Not the best of news. So some bad news is coming out. Despite this, they still give an outperform rating, but the price price ratio is now coming down. Tesla's losing some strength. We tend to be green only about 51% of the time on Tuesdays, and we have to see what happens around noon. That's when we tend to be the most volatile for Tesla stock. I also want to mention that when you look at the broader markets, the majority of stocks were in the green. If you look at like the finance sector, health technology, energy, the majority of stocks were in the green. We saw our ETFs in the green, looking at SPY and many others. However, Tesla, Amazon, and Nvda remained weaker. Hopefully, we see them try to hold their supports nonetheless. But for now, I just want to say Tesla's not looking that great. I am worried about the possibility of us forming a bearish wedge if we end up losing the support in the 230s. We do expect this to dump a lot more. So please be very careful, guys. We're getting lots of bad news for Tesla. It's underperforming when it should have done better. And this is not the best of signs. So I just want to give you guys a heads up about that. We're not ready to bottom yet. Typically in that like April to May period, that's when Tesla ends up bottoming. If you guys look at the chart, I did make a video about that before. So that does open the possibility for more downside if we can't get back above our key level. Now, I will talk more about that later on. So now let's talk about other things. So looking at the markets, the majority of stocks were in the green, looking at Berkshire Hathaway, looking at all these different sectors, but Tesla remained a little bit in the red. What happened to the market today? Just as a quick reminder, we had retail sales, which came out a little bit lower at 3.1% below expectations and also below what we previously got. That basically incentivizes the Feds just continuing to pause, not really do much, because they are in a situation where they have to wait on more data, especially as we're seeing consumer sentiment decreasing, right? We're seeing consumer sentiment becoming weaker, and consumer spending is slowing amidst the fears about a recession and factors like that. Now, for Tuesday, there's not really much coming up. We have export and import prices, not to mention some manufacturing production numbers. Finally, on Wednesday, which is going to be in 2 days from now. We also have FOMC. FOMC is going to be an important factor with Jerome Powell giving a speech. We're going to listen to see what the Fed tells us about interest rates and their economic projections for 1 to 2 years out. So keep in mind, the most important catalyst for the market for now is going to be FOMC. That's going to be very important by Wednesday, so keep that in mind. Right now, there's a 98% chance the Fed's going to keep rates the same, so we'll see about that. I think they're most likely going to do that. When it comes to politics, President Trump has not said too much about his tariffs. He does plan on making bigger announcements by April 2nd, but we're in a more like quiet period until then. Hopefully, he doesn't talk as much about them. He did mention just a couple of things, such as the fact that there's going to be no exemptions on the steel and aluminum tariffs, and there's going to be more tariffs coming, but that's all he really said. Nothing else from that point on. Now, instead of focusing on tariffs, President Trump is now focused on this. So he is going to be speaking with Putin tomorrow to try to negotiate a ceasefire. And, the original deal got a nice thumbs up from Ukraine. We're still waiting for Russia, as they have lots of terms they want them to agree to. So it's good to see them negotiating. We'll see how this goes. If we could get a 30-day ceasefire, that's going to be very important. But for now, this is what we're seeing so far. There's a lot of demands that they are making. So there's a lot of negotiating to do. We could see the market fly if we get the ceasefire deal done with this week or next week, but we'll see, guys. I don't want to be a victim of wishful thinking, so we just have to be very patient. And then this is what the earnings calendar looks like. There's not really much coming out this week. We have like Nike and FedEx on Thursday. Much of the earnings are quite minor, which is why I'm not talking as much about them. So there's a lot of fear right now. There's extreme fear in terms of sentiment for the markets. When comes that extreme fear, and we're also seeing the put to call option ratio elevated as there's lots of shorts piling in. The VIX is dumping, which is a bullish sign for the market. So far, so good. Anyways, that is it for my video for the news and such. Let's just focus on the charts from this point on. So what do I think is going to happen from this point on? Well, honestly, guys, Tesla looks a little bit lackluster because on a day like this, Tesla really should have bounced. Now we have the potential to be forming a flag over here. This could be forming like a bearish wedge. And if we continue to do this and we eventually lose the support here at 230, this will be dumping lower back down towards these lows, if not lower. So you want to be very careful at Tesla here if we're seeing a setup like this. Now, if you're bullish on Tesla, you want to see this bounce with the overall market. The market looks a bit more bullish. There's a chance Tesla will not dump immediately, but we need to break 250 to push back up to about 262.5. If we end up losing 230, we could be looking for a dip back down towards the 220 area. So we're going to be watching this very, very closely. My gut tells me that this might kind of push a little bit for 244 or so. But if we can't get back above 250, if we fail, we're going to likely see some kind of rejection move, return like this, and then eventually see a move lower. This is what's looking a little bit more probable because of this bearish wedge, and because we're getting so much bad news involving the Cybertruck again, involving more downgrades from analysts. So please be very careful. This is what I find to be the most probable outcome for Tesla, but we'll see just to be safe. So please keep that in mind. As far as SPY is going, I want to mention that SPY is looking a little bit more bullish right over here, especially as we have this bullish divergence. So if we break past 570, we're going to be looking to see if this could start pushing towards higher levels, especially as we have this gap to fill at 575 or above. If we lose 562.7, we could be dipping back down towards 556. So just keep that in mind, especially as we have this gap below. The 4-hour looks a bit more bullish, and if we could break past 570, we're looking for an attempt to fill this gap for 575. So please keep that in mind. And then in terms of other things, I want to mention that the daily on SPY is showing some life right here, but I do want to say there's a very, very tough resistance at 570. So let's break down the numbers. Where is this going to go? And let's make this very simple to understand. If SPY loses 562, we're going to be at risk of returning to 558, then 555. If we're bullish, you want to see us get back above 570. If that breaks, I think we push it for 575 or above, so keep that in mind. But my prediction is that we kind of push for 570, but then we might see some consolidation here. It's going to be a very tough resistance as we have our 200 EMA there and our 50 EMA on the different time frames. So there's going to be a tough resistance at 570, but if we break that, 575 will be next and eventually above. So I think a move like this is coming where we push to 570, then we consolidate for a bit before we break out higher. I find that to be very probable. For the QQQ, we're looking bullish. We need to see this hold above 480. If we lose that, we could be dipping back down for essentially 474. If we break past 485, we're looking for a push for 488 to 492. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move like this where we kind of dip towards 480, then we just bounce and continue to push for 488. So just keep that in mind as well, as there's potential in this. For the Russell 2000, we're looking quite good. We have to see if we can break past 205. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 208. If we end up losing the support right here around 203, we're looking for a dump back down towards 200. So overall, I'm making higher lows here. If this continues to break out, we're going to continue this uptrend for 208 plus. So keep that in mind. For ES, there's a bullish divergence here. We have to see if this could hold above 57.25. As long as that holds, we could continue to push for 5,800. If we end up losing 56A, we could turn back down, but I'm like thinking that this is going to make a move down first before it attempts to slowly consolidate and start pushing back up like this to this gap area. So look for a little bit of a pullback first before it tries to see a rebound. On NQ, it's the same thing. We're at the 50 EMA's resistance. Look for a pullback move. I think we dipped just a bit here before we try to push higher for the 20,500s. So just keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we're making higher lows. We're riding this trend line up, so we're looking pretty good here. We could be looking for a move back down towards this trend line. We'll have to see if we continue this uptrend slowly towards 86,000 plus. So watch that very, very closely. For Nvidia, we look bullish. I want to see if we could try to hold support off this inverse head and shoulders that's beginning to form on it. But it depends on what happens during the conference as they're trying to unveil a new chip. So keep that in mind. Despite the delays to the Blackwell, the latest Blackwell, we're going to be watching to see if that could help them. So watch 117 if that holds. We're looking for a bounce back up towards 123. If we lose this, we could be dipping back down towards 112. So keep that in mind. Overall, there's a potential inverse head and shoulders forming here. If we hold 117, we bounce. If not, we dip lower. So watch and see. For Aapl, I want to see this hold above 210. As long as that holds, we're looking for 216 and then 220 is our resistances. Tesla's looking decent, like I said before. We're trying to hold support, but if we don't do that, then this could turn back down. So be very careful with Tesla right now. I am seeing some weakness compared to the market. And once again, like I was saying about Aapl, this could try to push for 217 soon and try to outperform. For Netflix, I just wanted to say that. Oh, and by the way, guys, about Tesla, I forgot to mention this. We might not dip immediately because of the fact that the market's going to be pumping. So I think that there's a good chance that we see some consolidation. We might kind of push towards 244, then come back down, kind of consolidate like this first before potentially seeing either downside or upside. But I do see a consolidation phase potentially coming before we might end up dipping. If 230 fails us, then do expect some downside. So just keep that in mind for Tesla. Anyways, for Netflix, we look bullish. As long as we don't end up losing 943, we're looking for an attempt for 967. Looks a bit more bullish to me, especially as buyers are returning. So keep that in mind. We are showing some signs of improvement. For MSTR, I want to see us try to break 305 to remain bullish. If we lose 278, we could turn back down. So I think we do consolidate here before we slowly push for 300. We have a nice double bottom here, and I think that there's a good chance that this could be trying to push more. So keep that in mind. For Celsius, we are forming a nice looking kind of like accumulation here. I would like to see us just not lose 28.5 as long as we're above like the 28s. We are slowly favoring 31.5 or so. For Supermicro, we're looking decent right here, especially as we're making higher lows. So I want to see if we could try to hold support here as long as we don't end up losing like 30 or 41. If we do lose that, we could be tipping back down to like the 38s before it tries to bounce. I'm anticipating we're going to be making higher lows here. I think we're looking pretty good. So look for a dip and a bounce as the most likely possibilities. For pounds here, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. We have this imbalance up here around this 91.5 area. So there's a good chance we kind of dip here for 84 before it tries to bounce back up for 92. For Rivian looks bullish. We have a nice double bottom here. As long as we don't lose 10.8, now we're favoring a push for 11.22. Look for a dip and a bounce back up for the 11s as the most likely possibility. SoFi is making higher lows right here, so we could be looking for a move back up to 12.58. If that breaks, we could be looking for essentially 13 as our next potential target. Keep that in mind. For AMD has a nice double bottom right here. I think there's a good chance we try to push back up for 106. If we end up losing 101, we could be dipping a lot lower, but I do think there's going to be some kind of dip move before it continues to push. Still looks bullish for essentially 108. ARM is looking nice. I want to see 122.5 break. If that does happen, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 126. We have a nice gap to fill up there. For coin, we have resistance at 188. If that breaks, we're looking for 196. If this rejects, we could be dipping lower. So we have a nice double bottom here. So this could be pushing for 194. For Amazon, we're range bound. We like to bounce off the low 190s. We like to reject off 200 going back and forth. This could be pushing for 197, so watch that very, very closely. For Meta, we're going back and forth here. We have the support to watch for around this 590 area, and we have resistance around 610. We're just going back and forth as well. I want to see us break 608 to continue to push, so just keep that in mind. For Microsoft, we have a double bottom. We'll have to see if we can try to break past 389. If that's the case, we're looking for essentially 394 is our resistance. As long as we don't lose 385, I think we favor upside. 389 is likely coming for the 390, so just keep that in mind. If we break past 367, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards 369. If we lose support down here at 168, if we break that, then we're looking for 169. If we lose that, we're looking for a move back down to 164. So be very, very careful. For GameStop, if we break past 23.5, we're looking for an attempt for 24. If we lose 22.95, we could be dipping lower. Overall, we have a nice bullish divergence, and we could be pushing a little bit more from here. For AMC, if we break past 3.04, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to about 3.08. If we end up losing 2.96, we could turn back down. So I think we're doing a good job so far. For DJT, we're on a nice uptrend right here. This may continue to push for 21.05 if that continues. The VIX looks bearish, which tends to be a bullish sign for the markets, but we'll see if a wedge is forming. I'm kind of eyeing that. So be a little bit careful right here. I think that we want to see what kind of reaction we get. My anticipation is that this is going to remain bearish, and this is not necessarily, a typical wedge. This might just continue to downtrend at least for some time. So we'll see about that. We'll see how this ends up going as the VIX continues this downtrend move. It may continue to remain bearish for a week or two before we see a much larger move back up, as we're going to be looking for a big explosion in volatility. The 10-year is looking decent so far. It's going to be affected by FOMC, so is the dollar, so get ready for all of that. So my general consensus is that the market's going to push a bit more and hit resistance 570 for SPY. We might consolidate up here, then eventually start to break out higher later on as we have a gap to fill at 575 or above. But despite that, I think Tesla is in a range right now. It's kind of trading sideways, so we have to give this some time to develop. I would like to see it break 250 to be bullish. If we lose 230, we're bearish. We're just in the middle going back and forth, so keep that in mind. I would like to see this push a little bit higher, so give this some time, and we'll see how things end up going. Anyways, guys, that is it for my video. I want to thank you all so much for listening, so please have a good rest of your day. I'll be back tomorrow morning before market open for another update. Until then, take care and peace out.